Hello and good morning and welcome to another SkySwitch webinar. I'm Andy Abramson, Chief Marketing Officer of SkySwitch, and today's webinar is very timely. With everything that's going on with the coronavirus, officially known as COVID-19, more and more of our resellers and their customers are all working from home or having to work remotely. Offices have been closed, people have been sent home, some have taken their phones with them, some are having to get new devices and how to connect. So today's webinar is all about how to work from home successfully for you as a reseller and for your customers. We've put together a really good group of folks today. From SkySwitch, we have Emily Vasquez, who's going to talk all about our work from home initiative inside the SkySwitch store. Emily's going to tell you what's been going on in the store since we started it, what products are available, and why you should be paying attention every day to the store. We're also joined by our product reviews editor, Jason Harris. I've known Jason for almost 15 years from when he was writing first for GigaOM. He was a member of my Nokia Blogger Relations program, and also he's been the travel technology editor for Rudy Max's Travel World that you see on PBS. And lastly, we're joined by an old friend of mine who's been in the work from space quite a long time. Darren Buckner is the CEO and founder of Worfrom, one of the world's largest remote work, telecommuter, working from home, working from anywhere organizations with over 120,000 members spread across 150 countries. So we've got a star-studded group of people who all have expertise in working from home. Just like me, Emily works from home for SkySwitch. Jason's been working from home and in co-working facilities for as long as I've known him, as well as occasionally showing his face in an office where he works from time to time. And Darren, well, he's Mr. Workfrom. So we've got a great group. We're looking forward to everybody being here and filling you in with all kinds of information. And like all of our webinars, we're recording it. It will be posted later, and we'll be taking questions. I'd also like to thank our sponsor, Jabra. Jabra makes amazing headsets, and they just came out with a new line called the Evolve 2, which I watched their webinar yesterday, and those products will become available right after the 1st of April, and that's no joke. We want to thank Jabra for their support of today's work from home webinar, and they've been nice enough to offer up 3 prizes, which will be given away to 3 lucky winners at the end of the webinar. So stay tuned and ask some questions, because that's where we're going to draw the winners from. And with that, Emily, why don't we talk about what's going on with the SkySwitch store and our work from home initiative that Kelly Osborne has done such a great job at driving.
Absolutely, Andy. Thank you for that introduction, and good morning, everyone. As Andy mentioned, I'm the communications manager here at SkySwitch, and typically my role is very behind the scenes. So it's awesome to be here with all of you this morning. So I'm just going to touch on this slide really quickly about how big work from home is trending on Google right now. You can see that it's been steady and flat for the past year, and then all of a sudden in March we see a huge spike. So that's just to touch a little bit on the relevancy here on the webinar today. Going on to the SkySwitch store. Today I'm filling in for our e-commerce operations manager, Kelly Osborne. She heads all of the SkySwitch store initiatives and has truly been a rock star during this crazy time. So a few weeks ago, there was this mad dash for specific work from home items like Power over Ethernet and Power Bricks. Our CMO, Andy, referred to them as the toilet paper and hand sanitizer of the telecom world. It was just crazy. So our team created the work from home solutions category. And at first, this was meant to be just this convenient spot for resellers to find items during the rapid transition to working from home. But what our store manager, Kelly, has observed now that the rush has seemed to steady down a bit is that this category has transformed into what items are really meaningful during these tumultuous and unpredictable times. Additionally, Kelly has received questions. Oh, my goodness, I am sorry. Working from home, that happens sometimes. That was my dog. But going back to what I was saying, Kelly has received questions about what helpful solutions resellers can offer to their customers who don't have the ability to work from home. Maybe they work in the healthcare field, they're just like an essential service and they can't work from home. So I'm going to touch on that a little bit later. But first, I'm going to go over some of the hot items that are moving quickly in the SkySwitch store when it comes to those work from home solutions. Typically, these work from home products will help decrease distracting background noise. They'll have enhanced audio and visual clarity, user friendliness, and ease of setup. So first up, we have the Yealink CP700 portable speakerphone. This one in particular is really popular, but in the SkySwitch store, we have a variety of portable speakerphones from a wide range of brands. And these are really great for long conference calls at home, especially for those who tend to pace around the room while on the call. Next up, we have this GNOME base station and headset, which is great because it's so user-friendly. It's easy to set up, there's no long cords, and it gets the job done. Next up over here, we have the Grandstream GRP family of Deskphones. This one pictured is a Wi-Fi phone, and there's a variety of these Deskphones in the Grandstream GRP family with these nice, large, full-color LCD screens, and they're all available in the SkySwitch store. The last work-from-home product I'm going to touch base on today are wireless headsets. This one pictured here on the left is the PolySavvy 8220, which we actually just did a product review of that on our blog last Thursday. Over in the middle, we have a Jabra Engage headset, and then on the very right, we have the Jabra Evolve 75E, which is actually one of the 3 headsets you can win today as a listener, thanks to our webinar sponsor, Jabra. Now I'm going to talk about what you can offer to your customers who can't work from home. So as a cloud communications provider, there are ways you can still help them. A great example that Kelly shared with me is what CyberData promoted last week. They promoted their video intercom system, pictured over here, as a contactless communication solution for healthcare organizations. So right now, our store manager, Kelly, is researching and looking into what products make the most sense for safe work solutions. And any of those updates will definitely be communicated in our weekly Friday newsletter that the marketing team sends out every single Friday. And of course, it will be added into the work from home and safe work solutions category in the store. But generally, what we're really seeing is that video-based products tend to work well as a contactless communication solution. So that about wraps it up from the SkySwitch store side of things. And I wanted to leave all of you with Kelly's contact information in case you have any questions about products, inventory, or anything else store related. I've checked with Kelly, and store@skyswitch.com is the best email address to reach her at with any store related inquiries that you might have. And so now I'd like to pass. Sorry, I just wanted to pass it. Yeah, I'm going to pass this on over to Jason Harris. He is the SkySwitch Product Reviews Editor, a real product expert, and he's going to dive a bit deeper into those work-from-home tech solutions.
Thanks, Emily. That was a great report. Hey, Jason, it's so good to have you here. I mean, awesome. All the years we've known each other. You're like me. You're a road warrior at times. You're a work from home. You're a work in a co-working facility. You work on an airplane. And one of the things I wanted to talk about today with you is you've been doing a lot of product reviews, and you've been, using a lot of gear, not only the stuff that we've given you to test with and our brands that we work with in the SkySwitch store have given us to have you review, but you're somebody who's had to work anywhere for many years. So why don't you talk a little bit about the differences in work environments between an office and then a co-working facility, and now ultimately working from home? Start from there.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for the intro, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on the call today and share some knowledge. Yeah, I do like being a gadget geek and reviewer, and I get to tell people and make recommendations about products. So You can see my stuff on the SkySwitch blog, so feel free to reach out to me if you'd like more. If you have any further questions or leave a comment on the blog, you can read them stuff. But I will touch on some tips and things here in terms of how to stay successful working from various locations. So yes, as Andy says, I've worked at a co-working spot. I have a spot at my house. I have I've worked successfully from an office. So it's really about being able to manage your time and being able to stay productive while being distracted. So, in the office, you have, your office neighbor come down to bug you and that sort of thing, and you have to, but you can close the door and, remain productive and signal to the world that, hey, I'm busy and I'm doing work right now. But when you're either at home or maybe at a co-working spot, you don't have that luxury. There are little pods or quiet rooms in a co-working spot. But most of the time you're out kind of on an open floor in an open office. So you need to have A, the mental attitude of you're getting stuff done, and B, I'll show you some really good noise isolating headphones that can give you that quiet that if you need it. But then also from home. Home is an interesting category, and we have a much higher percentage of the workforce trying to work from home right now, as Andy had talked about with the virus and everyone trying to be productive at home. You've got, I personally know, because I'm married with kids, and luckily my wife is a full-time mom, so we don't have to balance two working schedules. But I know many couples who are having to balance trying to do both their work and keep their kids busy and do homeschooling. So and the dogs are going off, kind of like what we had with our previous panelist. So you have to either A, designate a spot to that can be quiet, whether it's a den or a spot in your garage. It's all about finding a quiet spot where you can get some work done, or being able to use tech and gear to isolate yourself if you're having to work from the kitchen counter or the dining table. So yeah, I would talk in terms of how to stay productive. It's really about bucketing your time. I would say whether you're at home or whether you're at a co-working spot, or even if you're at the office, you need to plan your day. I personally work in about 75 to 90-minute sprints, where I'll focus on one thing, whether it's, corresponding with email, writing an article, getting back to someone, writing a presentation. I block things in 75-minute sprints, because I know that mentally I'm not really sharp after 90 minutes. I've already checked out, or I'm looking on my phone at Facebook. Like if I know that if I can work in 90-minute sprints and then take a mental break, take a short walk, go play with your child, or read or check an article or whatever, like build in little 5-minute breaks, go grab a cup of coffee. But what I like to do, and to be most productive with my work, is schedule 4 to 6 sprints like that, and then I'm able to get a lot done. And one thing that you will find working from home or working from a co-working spot is that if you execute it right, you're able to get much more done than you are in the office. I know that I would say that I am 130% more productive at home than I am in a traditional office. And I know many people who try to work from home maybe one day a week before all the trend and the virus stuff. I know people that would try to work from home or work remotely 1-2 days a week, and they save the stuff where they can just focus and get stuff done. And they say the same thing. They're way more efficient at home. So
let's talk, Jason. Let's talk a little bit about gear.
Sure.
As our resident gadget geek, you love to tinker and evaluate the newest gear in the different work environments. I know from some of the test calls we've done with the different hardware, whether it's headsets or speakers or desk phones, or even soft clients like Reach UC that all of our resellers can rebrand. You've had a chance to really sit down and evaluate what works. And just so everybody understands, Jason will test at home, and then he'll take it into a co-working facility and he'll test there as well for things like background noise and noise cancellation. He doesn't just take the spec sheet and write a review. He actually gets his hands dirty around these, which is why we actually have these first-person reviews up on the SkySwitch blog. So why don't you talk a little bit about how to choose the right gear, whether it's a phone, a headset, or a speakerphone?
Sure. Well, I really like this picture because you have a workstation here. Because the most basic work from home setup is just you and your cell phone and your laptop. That's going to be good for about a half a day, and then you're going to get antsy, and you're going to be like, I wish I had some more gear. So what I like about this picture, just to start from the workstation point of view, Andy, is that you have a mouse and you have a keyboard that is separate from the laptop itself. I wish that in this picture there was a monitor setup, because I think that's the ultimate setup. That's how I have my desk set up at my co-working spot. I have a Microsoft wireless mouse, I have a keyboard, and I have a monitor set up. But in the least, this person has, on this picture, has elevated their laptop so that it's at eye level. Those metal laptop stands I have seen on Amazon for as little as $20. So that's a good, raising your laptop is step one. But after you get beyond that, then you want to look at your phone, your headset, and your speakerphone. One thing that's really nice is that some of the phones that we were showing on the prior slides, these phones aren't that expensive. I remember back when you and I were testing gear back about 10 years ago, Andy, these desk phones that, you know, the Grandstreams and the ones that were back then, they were like $500, $600, $800. Now they're much more price aware. You can get a good phone for between $100 and $300 depending on your set. So I would challenge you to have a phone, a dedicated phone at your workstation at home. Then next is your headset. I reviewed and published last week the Savvy 8220 from Plantronics. I know there are other models, but I'll just highlight this one because this is the one I most recently reviewed, and I'm just a huge fan of it. The really great thing about that particular headset is that it's wireless. So you don't have wires dangling from you. It's super lightweight, it's super comfortable, but it can hook up to your computer, your desk phone, the one that I just described, and then also your mobile phone. So no matter what you're either listening to music on or what you're talking on, the Plantronics Savvy 8220 is phenomenal.
Let me ask a question, Jason. Let me ask a question about that. You just said it can connect to 3 devices. Do you mean it can connect to those devices just because Bluetooth does, or you can be connected to all of those devices simultaneously? Because that's a big important point.
Good question. So when you take the Savvy 8220 out of the box, you hook it up to the headset jack, which pretty much every desk phone has a headset jack in the back. So it is physically wired to your desk phone. And then in terms of the computer connection, whether it's a PC or Mac, it has the Savvy has an USB connection that you plug it in. And then how it connects to your mobile phone is through Bluetooth. And what I really, really like about one really killer feature about that particular headset is that if you have a call, say you have a call on your desk phone and you're talking to a colleague either across town or across the country, doesn't matter, and then your mobile phone rings and you want to bridge the 2 calls, but you don't want to like do the whole like awkward 3-way calling thing, you can press 2 buttons simultaneously, and the Savvy 8220 will actually connect the phone on the desk phone call and the mobile phone call into one unified thing, just with the touch of 2 buttons. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty powerful device, and I've seen that Savvy for, so that Savvy 8220, of course, you can have a wired headset, and I've seen those wired headsets for $50 or less, whether it's a Jabra or a Plantronics headset. This particular Plantronics Savvy 8220 is in the mid 200s in terms of price. But for me, if I'm going to be working from home, either for the next month or 2 regularly, I'm going to spend the money, because that thing, and the other nice thing about that Savvy, and I feel like I'm a salesperson right now, I'm not, I'm just a really excited gadget geek. The battery life on that thing, it has, I think, 200 hours of standby time and 20 hours of talk time. I have it in my blog post, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but that thing will last you pretty much all week, and you can charge it, but you don't have to. So if you forget to charge it, you're working and you have a distraction, you have to get up and leave, it doesn't matter.
So I've been using a Poly 6200 or Plantronics 6200, which has similar features where you can Bluetooth to a bunch of different devices. So I've got my Android, my iPhone, my iPad, my Macs, my Chromebook, and what's great is it just saves all that in there. I think it holds like 3 or 4. I'm also using the Jabra 75, which is, for me, in the car, it's got better noise cancellation. I'm really excited about the new Jabra line that's coming out that's going to have all types of noise cancellation, especially the 85. But I've been switching back and forth, and the reason I like these 2 headsets, whether it's the Jabra 75E or the Plantronics 6200, is they're lightweight, but the audio sensitivity on the microphones is really discreet, and it picks up your voice very clearly. Most people don't know that I'm actually using, like right now, I'm on one of them, and most people don't even know that I'm using a headset microphone versus a speakerphone. That's how advanced the technology has become, in that our headsets are actually better as input devices than some of the microphones on our phones.
Yep.
So while we're talking about headsets, we also talk, I love speakerphones. I'm a big speakerphone user because one, I like to walk around when I'm on a conference call. You know, you can't sit all day at a desk. A, it's not healthy, and B, you want to get up and you want to move around. So sometimes you're on a conference call, you can just wander around your room, because your room or your at home is probably bigger than an office in an office. So why don't you talk a little bit about some of the speakerphones that people can do like I do, get up and move around?
Yeah, I have yet to test a lot of the speakerphone. Sorry, I thought you were talking about speakers. I have yet to test the speakers. I have some Yealinks that I'm really excited about, but speakerphones are super important too. So every desk phone has a speakerphone capability. They work extremely well as long as you're within about 5 feet from your phone. If you get beyond that, then the mic can't pick you up, and your callers will say what. So I would recommend, and then another tip that a lot of people I don't see doing, but they need to, is if you're gonna use the speakerphone on your desk phone, take the handset off the hook. There's no reason that the handset should be covering up the speaker. Let everyone hear you, and you'll hear better as well. So the favorite one I have used, the favorite speakerphone in terms of fidelity, has been the Grandstream GVX 3370. It's kind of more of a granddaddy phone. It's got Android, the touchscreen, all that stuff, but it has a really great noise cancellation feature. And then also, I just got done reviewing a Yealink SIP T54W. Don't worry about writing this down; it'll all be on the blog. But that thing has a really great, they call it acoustic shield. So it actually does a good job of canceling out background noise. So I was in an environment with a copier around me, and then I had some background chatter in my office space, and people were able to fully hear me. I never had any whats, and I asked people how I sounded. They said, you sound great. So yeah, speakerphones are good. I would recommend getting one that has some sort of noise isolation features. I know that the Plantronics do. I know that the Yealink does. I'm not sure. I'll have to look in the store to see if the Grandstream ones do.
So haven't you also played around with the SNOME C520 cloud conferencing calling device?
Because I have. When we think, yes.
So you think about something different, and we all remember the Polycom, Starfish speakerphones, which are still great and love using them. I make use of a Poly Callisto desktop speaker, which is about 4x4. And right now I'm listening to you through there while I'm talking through the Jabra headset. But this SNOME C520 was one of the first things you reviewed on the SkySwitch blog. And why don't you talk a little bit about the whole idea of a conference calling solution, but using it in a work from home environment, and why it's so good?
Yeah, this particular SNOME, the C520, then I think there's a newer model coming out, but the C520 is amazing. So it is a speakerphone like you've seen in your office's conference room space, and it has like the triangle design, or starfish is how you describe it. That's more apt. What's really interesting about this one is on two of the ends, the mics actually come off. So it's a little, I would say it's about the size of a deck of cards. It comes off, and so you can move it around with you. So like if you're say you're in a bigger office space, and maybe you're working next to maybe you're working alongside someone, this is really great because you can both be heard, and even if you happen to go on the other side of the room, or you need to be in a corner, you can still hear everyone. And the C520, you buy it, it's if you buy it from the SkySwitch store, it's already provisioned, so it's easy for resellers to give to their end users. And it just works, and the fidelity is amazing. I called all over the US, Canada, I even called mobiles in the UK and France, and everyone was just baffled that I was on. They didn't pick up on the fact that I was on a speakerphone because they said I sounded so good.
Let's do this. Let's play counselor to a reseller, and we'll do a little, like mock back and forth. I'm a reseller and I'm asking you, what are some of the things I need to be thinking about in order to work from home so I can work with my customers and help them? And then the second question would be, how can I help them work better, more efficiently from home? So why don't you first start with, if I'm a reseller and I've been working in an office and I usually go out to my customer sites, and all of a sudden now I'm being asked to work from home because of the whole, stay at home movement surrounding the coronavirus. What are some of your recommendations that a professional needs to be thinking about? And then we'll talk about how they can coach their customers.
Are you speaking to like the bare necessities of success, like successfully working from home in terms of devices? And
Yeah, absolutely. What should they be doing in order to, with the different gear, so that they're professional, so that they operate properly, ranging from picking a broadband supplier,
Got it. Okay.
what they need at home, things like that.
Got it. So typically, most Americans have two choices for telecom or internet service at home. Either your phone company or cable company. Most of the time, unless you have fiber, and also if you're blessed to have fiber, then obviously go with the fiber connection. But what you need to have the internet connection needs to be fast enough so that you can sound good to whoever you're calling. You need to have good upstream bandwidth. So whenever you're shopping for an internet plan, ask the vendor, so ask either the cable company or the phone company, what is going to be my upstream bandwidth? Because in my case, where I live in Oregon, my DSL provider only gives you less than a meg up. On Comcast, which is who I choose to have at home, I get 6 megs up. I get 250 megs down and I get 6 up. So no matter what I'm doing, even if I'm doing a webinar like we are right now, and I'm shooting video out to the web, or sorry, streaming video out to the web from my home out to the web, my voice still sounds great. So you have to think about that internet connection, and then once you get the fastest pipe available that you can, and when I say pipe, I'm talking about internet service at home, you need to be sure that you have adequate connection in your workspace. So if you're going to work from your garage or your den upstairs, you need to go up and do a test with a good app on your mobile phone. And the one I use, hold on, I'm pulling out my phone here, is called Wi-Fi Man from, I believe it's from Ubiquiti, which is one of the more, it's called Wi-Fi Man or Wi-Fi Manager. And it's available for both iOS and Android, and it will not only tell you, how your connection is, but it'll also tell you how noisy it is in that room if you're doing Wi-Fi, that sort of thing. So get a good app on your phone. I can also maybe we can do a blog post about that, just a quick one in terms of tips. But I would recommend a wired connection if you can do it. If you can be in the same room as your cable modem or your DSL modem, you should be using a wired connection, especially to your telephony devices, so your desk phone, and then to your laptop or desktop. Wired is best. Wireless obviously is better and more convenient, but if you can, get wired.
And well, then, like one of the products in our store, one of the brands is Netgear. And Netgear has both Wi-Fi products like their Nighthawk, which is a mesh environment, which lets you put different access points around your home office or office, and they'll all treat it as one network. However, they also make some really good switches and routers. And by having the right switch on your desk, basically you want a 10 base T1000 gigabit switch. If you're going to have, like, I've got a gigabit download from Comcast with 40 megs up, I love to have a switch so I can have all my gear connected. As you said, a wired connection is always better because Wi-Fi is susceptible to cross-channel traffic, the neighbor's Wi-Fi if you're in an apartment house, even the microwave or the baby monitor, all can possibly interfere with it. If you're going to go Wi-Fi, obviously you want Wi-Fi 5 or soon Wi-Fi 6 as the standard in there. You also want to be using 802.11 AC. Never, ever, ever run anything on B, because B moves along as fast as the slowest device on it, and B is like older than Jason. So it's been around, and he's young, and it's been around since the dawn of time. G was the next generation, then N. Now we've got AC, which I love, and it doesn't go as far, but it's fatter, which means you get more traffic coming at you more quickly. So that's if you're Wi-Fi. If you're wired, be sure you're using Cat6 cable. The difference between Cat5 and Cat6 is how fast the data moves over that particular connection. So always look for Cat6, whether you're going out and buying it online or whether you're going to the local tech shop like Best Buy or Fry's or whatever's in your community. If you're a reseller, knowing the difference between the cable modems or the DSL modems. I had a friend once who kept saying, Andy, I can't get anything faster than 100 megabits and I'm paying for 350. Well, I had him take a picture of his cable modem and I said, well, there's a reason. That modem can't go faster than 100. And he said, but I'm paying for 350. The cable company never replaced his hardware, but for 6 months they were charging him for 350 by 50. And so know that your gear has to be current. If you're running something that's 5 or 6 years old, chances are it isn't able to deliver the speeds you need. And here's one big thing. It's not the download that really affects you that much when you're working from home. It's your upload. So make sure you've got really good upload. And Jason was talking about having 6 megabits. He has 6 megabits, but he's also sharing that with everybody else in his house. So it's important that you know what you've got. And that's one more reason why you either want to go wired or you want to be using 802.11 AC. Now let's also talk about something, and we've had a run of these in the SkySwitch store. Resellers, some of you have been buying these smartly, and some of you should know about it, is the Power over Ethernet. How's Power over Ethernet work, Jason?
Power over Ethernet is cool because it provides the power connection that your phone needs through the network cable. So you don't have to have a separate AC adapter connected to the phone along with an Ethernet cable. You can just power your device with the Cat6 cable like you were talking about, Andy. So that's actually one thing you'll want to evaluate when you buy your phone or when you're recommending Deskphones to other people is do they have PoE? Power over Ethernet is acronym is PoE. If they have PoE in their house, or if you're going to, because often when you're looking at certain desk phone models, there's 2 models, one with AC adapter included, or one just with assuming that you have PoE. I just wrapped up a review on a Yealink, the T54W, which I was talking about, and that one required PoE, and so luckily I was able to make that work. And then if you end up needing, you can buy, just another pro tip is you can buy PoE adapters, the TP-Link, TP-Link is the brand, PoE adapter you can get if you need it. So that's another
thing.
Great.
Let's talk about something else to make remote work. I think it's like speakerphones. What do you need to do to make a speakerphone work better? I mean, there's certain functionality that if you're a reseller and you're counseling your customers who've never worked from home, and there's the noise, there's the kids, there's the kitchen, there's the outdoor noise. What are some of the things people should do and think about when they're going to choose and recommend a speakerphone?
Well, I like how the first bullet point on this is the mute button. Learn how to use the mute button because it is your friend. I enjoy some of the Plantronics products because they actually, if you're on mute and you start talking, it'll say, "Hey, dummy, you're on mute." Actually, it says it more formally than that, but so that's one thing, is be sure that the mute button is easy to get to on the device that you're looking at. So like the model that we're looking at right here, the mute button's there on the bottom. You want to look, another thing is like how many mics it has. So if you're planning on yakking at your speakerphone from across the room, you want to be sure that it's going to pick up your voice. And then obviously another thing is how loud can it get? And then does it have noise cancellation? Do you need noise cancellation? If you work from home and you don't have children and maybe you don't have dogs, maybe you don't have a lot of noise, active noise cancellation may be something you don't need to pay extra for. Or if you do have those things, or you do have a lawnmower outside, maybe you do need some noise cancellation. And then the last question is wired or Bluetooth. I prefer wired headsets or wired accessories when I can, because A, I don't have to charge them. B, I have a MacBook Pro, and I'm not sure, I haven't used a PC in a while, but on my MacBook Pro, Bluetooth gets wonky. It cuts out, or my computer gets slow. Bluetooth is a great technology, but it's not as reliable. And if I'm on the line trying to make a very important business call, I don't want to mess with Bluetooth wonkiness. So, but that's a personal preference. So yeah, those are the questions you want to ask yourself. And then there's lots of options and lots of different brands. I have in my review queue, I have some from Yealink, I have some from Plantronics, and I can't wait to dig in.
That's great. So as we look at what comes up next on the next slide, when you're doing all this and you're counseling somebody who's going to be working from home for the first time, and they say, I gotta have a headset. I've got, it's just, I use one at work. I use one in the car, but I really don't know how to tell somebody how to choose a headset, because most of these people have been using handsets on their speakerphone on their desk for years. So how should I, even though I've been using a headset as a reseller, how do I counsel somebody on how to make the right choices?
Yeah, so again, there's that wired or wireless question you want to ask yourself. Are you okay being tethered to your desk phone or your computer, or do you want to have a completely wireless Bluetooth solution? There are, or also, actually no, the Plantronics Savvy 8220 is not Bluetooth. It's got its own RF signal, so it's fantastic. So yeah, you want to know, how much does the thing weigh? When you look at reviews, I would look very carefully at what other people are saying about comfort level. You want to ask yourself how long, how much per day are you going to be on your headset? Is it something where you only do like an hour's worth of phone calls a day, and you can get away with something a little heavier and maybe a little less expensive, or do you want something like the Savvy that you're going to spend a little more money on, but that thing is all day comfort. It's fantastic. And then also you want to see about the buttons and the button placement and like how easy it is to work with this thing. One thing I really liked about the Savvy 8220 is how easy it is to use, like turning the volume up and down, muting it, taking and receiving calls it's all very intuitive. Even for someone who's not tech savvy, it's very, very intuitive to use. And then, do you need noise cancellation? Again, how noisy is your home environment? And then, are you okay with mono? Obviously, if it's just phone calls, they are not stereo phone calls. They're probably going to be mono. So like, you just need to decide. So there's lots of different things. I try to highlight all of these in the reviews I do. And if you need other reviews, you can use Google and also just look. So when you're looking at reviews, these are the things you need to justify.
Great. I'm somebody who for years never wore headsets because of what you said, but I've become more acutely aware as I'm working from home, things like the dishwasher, the HVAC system, the noise that comes out from that. You can't close the air vent because you want it to be cool if you work in a warm environment. So background noise and that noise cancellation is so crucial. And obviously the mute button that you mentioned before, a mute button on a headset is also important, because let's say the kid walks in. So if you're counseling somebody who works from home with a family, you want to ask these questions like, are the kids going to come by? Are the dogs going to be barking? Is there going to be the doorbell ringing? Does your phone ring a lot? And if that's the case, you want to definitely have the ability to mute that stuff out.
Another pro tip we haven't touched on is mute your cell phone. There's nothing more annoying than when you're on a call and then the phone rings or buzzes. It's silly. So mute your mobile phone. So if you are on a call, you can make sure the person knows that they have your full attention.
A little trick is, if you use Zapier, you can tie Zapier to your calendar, and every time you're doing something, you can go into do not disturb mode or go into silent mode. You can do the same thing with Slack, so that you can update your status. Little tricks like that help make remote work easier, because people aren't seeing you. And if you're used to working in an office, whether it was with cubby holes and what they call the gopher holes and all that, now they can't see you. So your status becomes really important. Emily, what's our next slide? Let's talk about our soft phone client, ReachUC.
Yes.
Resellers, we saw a spike in ReachUC downloads and usage about a week ago, a little more than a week ago. And Jason, you're a heavy user of it. I know you call me just to chat and catch up. Let's talk about ReachUC, which, resellers, you can brand it your own. If you don't know that, it has your logo, so it's your service and all that. Your customers can have their desk phone on their tablet or their smartphone. So Jason, what makes ReachUC so valuable as a tool as a soft phone?
Let me preface this by saying I have used many VoIP and internet telephony products on my phone. So I come at this with an educated opinion, and the ReachUC was the very first article that I wrote for both Android and iOS. And one thing I love about ReachUC from a practical standpoint is, say you are part of an office and you're told, hey, everyone, work from home, but the company or like your company or your IT department hasn't had time to get you a proper desk phone for your home environment. ReachUC is the perfect tool because you can load the app on your iOS or Android device, and you instantly have your desk phone and your company's phone on your phone, and you don't have to give out your personal cell phone number. You can reach people by extension. It's basically like taking your office phone with you. And then one thing that makes ReachUC in particular really great, Andy, is that this app just sits in the background and it doesn't drain your battery. It uses push notifications. So when you get a call, it uses push notifications, and the call looks like just a normal call on your mobile. But some of these VoIP apps on your phone actually drain your battery really fast, and that's why a lot of people don't like them. But this one does not do that. And you have full ability to do video, you have full ability to do voice calls, and as if you're at home. So ReachUC is perfect. And what I love, like you said, is that for resellers, they can just rebrand this and make it their own. No one needs to know that it's a SkySwitch app. It's your app that you're offering to your customers.
So with it, we also have text messaging, which is, so it's just like having another mobile phone without the cost of another mobile phone, without having to lug around a second mobile phone. It also works on tablets. So if you've got an iPad, iPad mini, an Android tablet, you can install ReachUC, you log on with your username and your password. It's a real simple log on, and it just works. And we maintain all of the updates in the background. So resellers, if you're not pushing ReachUC as a one step. What this also means is people who have a desk phone in one place in their house, they may be working someplace else or sitting someplace else, and they've got their mobile phone with them or their tablet, and they can be reachable. In the old days, I used to have people working for me who would take their tablet to soccer practice where their kids were playing. I had some soccer moms working for me, and they were always in touch because they were using soft phones to stay in touch with everybody else on the team for that 2-hour time block. Then they would come back and work from home. So soft phone clients are really useful, and we are about to get into a beta real soon. We're at the alpha stage of ReachUC for desktop. We're playing with it internally, so resellers, we will, just to give you a heads up, we will have that coming at you. We've also rolled out a beta for Microsoft Teams and their soft phone. You can sign up for the beta right now. We've sent that out in our weekender last Friday, and we're seeing quite a significant number of interested resellers who want to be testing Microsoft Teams that we're doing with Teammate Technology. So these solutions are solutions for you to be using yourself, but also to be using with your customers and to have your customers make use of them. So, stay in touch with us about the betas for Microsoft Teams and the soon-to-be beta around the ReachUC desktop. Now, part of this whole thing about work from home in the last 10 to 15 minutes that we have, and then we'll get to questions, is the life of an anywhere worker. And Darren Buckner from Worfrom, he started Worfrom about five years ago. Like I said, 120,000 members around the world, operating in 150 countries. Darren is an expert in what it's like to be an anywhere worker because he spends so much time talking, counseling, working with people from anywhere to anywhere. Darren, welcome to the SkySwitch webinar.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. It's been such great information so far. I'm happy to be a part of this.
So our audience of resellers are MSPs, value-added resellers, telecom resellers, interconnects. And for the first time, even though we've got close to 60% of their customer base actually works from home sometime. Now they're forced to work from home, and they don't go to an office. They don't get to see their staff unless they do a video conference. What are some of the basic tenets you would offer as we go back and forth with some questions? What are some of the basic concepts you would say to a reseller who all of a sudden is facing major work from shock? They're no longer going to an office. They're not sitting in traffic. They're not seeing their customers. What are some of the really good, useful thoughts about what you would be counseling a remote worker to be able to deal with, both physically with devices and emotionally?
Yeah, oh, great. Well, we've talked a lot about the technology and the tools that you need in order to work effectively from home or really from anywhere. And I think all of that is fantastic advice and things that everybody should be thinking about. So let's assume you now have these things in place and your workspace at home is functional in that way. The first thing I'm telling most folks at this point, with the things going on in the world, is to have some grace with each other, have some grace with your teammates, with your customers. We are all of a sudden working from home, lots of us, and that takes some time to adjust. But we can find real benefit. We can find real excellent quality, valuable work being done from anywhere during this time. It just takes a little bit of time to get used to it. So you've got to think about your workspace and how you can separate that from the collisions of your work, your life, your home life. So many of us will have kids, many of us will have pets, many of us will have noises that we can't control. What you want to try to do is find a space in your home that you can control. And that's important both for the experience for the people that you're working with, but also for yourself. You've got to find your sort of for now routine, if you will. And it's going to be different than what you're used to. But you need to think about what's going to work for you and how you're going to get up every day and be your most productive. The things that I like to think a lot about are what kind of routines have been working for me in the past and what can I do to maybe not replicate, but to augment my day in similar ways when you're working from home. If you are used to getting up and having a commute, think about getting up and maybe walking outside for a little bit, doing something that will psychologically trigger that, hey, I'm getting ready to transition from home and the experience of that to actual work. I think these kinds of psychological cues are really important and can really make for productivity boosts if you're feeling as if things are kind of colliding in all these interesting ways when you're working from home. The things that you want to control in your environment are obviously the sounds and the other kinds of interruptions that others might experience when you are working with them. It's important to understand that it's still great to be professional when you're at home, and professional means controlling some of the experiences that others will have when they're working with you. When you're working by yourself, you want to think about the things that are going to give you, again, the productivity boost. Maybe it's having some sound in your space that is good for you. Maybe it's having some things that you enjoy, natural light, plants, things along those lines. But you just really want to think about your environment and how that's going to affect the way that you're able to work as well as how others are working. And
so there's a video making the rounds right now of somebody who took their video conference call into the restroom and everybody knew it.
Saw that.
Yeah. And so I think it's important that, like, you think about etiquette. You wouldn't do that at work. So don't do it at home. Make use of the mute button. If you gotta go, mute before you go. If you want to keep listening, listen, but don't have the camera on. If the kids are running around, the mute button is a great way to keep them from being seen or heard. Same thing with pets. You mentioned noise from the outside. Let's talk about schedule. There's a whole psychology around when you're at work, and when you're at home, you're at home. And now for many, for resellers and their customers, work is home. So how do you separate work and play?
Yeah, those are great questions. I think you have to be very intentional. So a lot of what works for working remotely is thinking through things ahead of time and being very intentional about the ways that you come in and out of your home life and your work life when you're at home. And these boundaries are hard to set, so you have to be very intentional about that. You want to think about syncing up calendars and reminders for yourself and having those readily available, making sure that you have notifications that can, that are easy for you to understand ahead of time before you need to make a transition. Don't wait till the last second. Think about, setting up some bathroom breaks for yourself, setting up some times to go get some water or to grab a snack. The temptation will likely be that you can sort of do all these things at once. As you mentioned, Andy, the video of going around with somebody, going to the restroom while they're on a call. You'll feel as if maybe you can manage all these things, but it's unlikely that you can do that well. And don't put yourself in those situations. Try to think about your day ahead of time. Look at your calendar every morning or even the night before, and sort of get a game plan for that day. And like I said, set up times that you can naturally go and do the things that you need to still be able to do in order to be productive, and they won't collide with your calendar or the expectations that you've set with others. I think that's really important, and it's the kind of thing that will, if you don't do that well, it will quickly lead to frustration, as well as feeling as if you're not being productive, and that's not where you want to be. There are some productivity boosts that come from working this way, and you really want to be able to lean into those things.
Darren, when you're counseling somebody, how do you counsel them about setting boundaries at home with family members or neighbors or friends? I mean, some of us who live in high density housing, friends are used to just walk in like, hey, I see you're home. And, how do you learn to set boundaries with friends and family?
Yeah, it is a challenge, and everybody has to learn. Everybody has to understand that this is different. That just because they may be able to see you or they know you're in the next room doesn't mean that you're not actively engaged in something that can't be interrupted. So again, if you can be a bit mindful, if you can be thoughtful about these experiences and set everybody up for success, I think you will also find much more success in this. Have these conversations with the other people in your house, whether that's your spouse, whether that's your partner, your kids, anybody else who may be coming in and out of your environment. Make sure that they understand that you are working unless otherwise saying so, right? So some things that we like to do, for instance, in our household, where it has effectively become a co-working space. We have multiple professionals now working in our house. We set up things, notifications with each other. Hey, going to be heads down working on this thing for the next hour. Make sure that nobody comes in, or make sure that if you have any questions, wait for after this period of time. And again, just really clearly communicating to everybody when you're working and when you're not, and that can be tough to determine for others. So have doors that you can shut if you can. Put signs on doors, even sticky notes work really well. We've been doing some of this. Have a sticky note on the door that says, heads down, or in a video call. Anything that you can do that can give others a cue that you are focused on something that can't be interrupted, and give it to them in a way that will naturally help them interact with that, I think is key. And it's going to be messy. Again, have some grace. Everybody will adjust, and everybody will figure out how to make this work. But you've just got to be really intentional about communicating with neighbors who may see that you're home all the time, with deliveries that come to your home, with other things, maintenance maybe that needs to happen. These are, again, all things that you really want to think about. You want to think about setting up some barriers between you and these experiences, so that they don't just suddenly happen. So in order for them to interrupt you, they have to actually go through something that they'll be hard to interrupt, and that's the key. If you can't set up these kinds of even physical barriers, if you don't have, for instance, a room in which you can close a door, or if you don't have an area of your home in which you can get some natural separation, you've got to be extra, I think, vigilant about making sure that others understand that you are working and cannot be interrupted, and you'll just need to talk through that with the people in your home, because the only way that we can all make this work together is if we all understand what those boundaries are and what the expectations are.
How do you not go crazy? I mean, you got a reseller who's a first time work at home type, maybe they take a few phone calls at home, but now they're literally trapped. I made this statement on Facebook. I now know what it feels like to be under house arrest. And I've worked from home all my life, but I've been able to do things at night and go out. My social life's dead. I have no social life other than online. How do you not go crazy if I'm going a little stir crazy for not being able to get out and be social? How do you not go crazy if you're a first-time remote worker and all of a sudden you're trapped? What are some key points of what people should do? And I want to get through the last couple of slides, and we're going to go to Q&A in the few minutes we have left. But what do you do?
Well, you got to think about your optimal self. What do you need on a day-to-day basis in order to feel as if you're most comfortable? So you cannot just simply go from one experience and expect that it's going to be the same when you're working at home. You are going to be disconnected from things that you may be used to being connected to the day before when you were working in an office. You really need to be intentional again about making sure that you're taking breaks from work. These things won't come as easily as they may have when you are working around other colleagues in an office. There will be natural times when maybe everybody goes and grabs some coffee at the water cooler or has a lunch break. These rhythms, these cadences sort of naturally develop when you're in an office, but when you're at home, you have to create these things for yourself. They're still very, very important. So think about how are you going to build into your day these natural breaks, times to get up, walk around, stretch. These are actually benefits that you have that are harder to do sometimes in the office. Now you can take advantage of these things. You can do a little bit of exercise, even do a couple jumping jacks if that's your thing, get the blood flowing. But you want to be thinking about building these things into your day so that you have a cadence that really works with you, but also keeps you from being too tied to the things that are going to get you out of balance. Stay hydrated. Do still keep connected with friends and family and colleagues. Working remotely doesn't mean you have to work alone, and it doesn't mean that you have to be socially disconnected. It does mean that you have to be more intentional about the ways that you do connect with folks. Most folks are probably seeing today that there are a lot of interesting kind of virtual happy hours and virtual coffee breaks and all kinds of things that you can do over video that can help you to keep connected with friends and colleagues and family. These things are still very important. Humans, we're very social creatures, so we can't stay disconnected from these kinds of things for too long without feeling isolated and feeling like we are going a little bit crazy. Dive deep into the things that you love. If you love podcasts, listen to podcasts. If you love certain types of music, have that on. Now you've got a space in where you can control that and do that without interrupting, sort of imposing on your teammates if you're in the same office. So take advantage of that. Really find your zone and think a lot about what that zone is for you and how you may be able to really augment or lean into that now that you work from home. And also keep in touch with your team. Don't let days go by where you haven't had conversations with your team that are maybe not just focused on work. The banter is important. Have an area in your communication tools where you can talk about things that are happening on a day-to-day basis. Just have some fun, maybe some jokes. On our team, we have in our communication tools, we set up rooms where we can talk about what we call life shares. Things that are happening. These things happen naturally when you're together in an office, and they're an important part of everybody's day, important part of staying connected, staying sane, and staying productive. You don't have to go without just because you're not physically next to each other. You do have to think a lot more about how you're going to make that work when you're not physically next to each other. But it absolutely can work, and you will not go insane. I promise you.
Great points, because one of the things that we do on the SkySwitch marketing team is we have a daily stand-up where we take 15, 20 minutes. We start 5 minutes off of the half hour, or sometimes 5 minutes off of the hour, and we talk we catch up. What are the priorities? What has to be done? What issues are out there that need to be addressed? What do we have to fix? What do we have to do? What are we going to work on? And we do this every day, and it happens no matter where we are, whether we're working at home, whether I'm traveling, whether the team's traveling. But the only time we don't do it is when we're at trade shows. The last thing is, and this is, we talked a little bit about at the start, was distractions. How do you manage working from home distractions? What's the best, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to say, here's the best surefire way to stop being distracted. What are they?
Find a space where you can work that you can control as much as possible. The distractions that are most difficult to deal with are the ones that just sort of happen to you and that you can't create barriers between. So find a space in your home that you can control. That will be the best way to manage the distractions. It'll also be the best way to keep you from feeling as if you need to do other things. They'll be out of sight and hopefully out of mind. Be intentional about your day. Set it up in a way in which you know you're making a mental shift from home life to work life, and be vigilant about that. Make sure that you have clocks, you have reminders, you have these things in place to let you know, hey, I'm moving into work and then I'm moving out of work. And if you can do that, and if you can build that cadence on a day-to-day basis for yourself, the tools you already have in place will help take over, and you will be productive.
Great. Let's go to our audience. We're at the top of the hour. One last thing: company culture from home. Go back one slide. Go back.
Yes.
Company culture from home. How should people stay in touch with colleagues or their coworkers and their customers? What are some of the things that you see work really well to stay in touch, whether it's a tool, whether it's a technique or a tactic?
Yeah, there's so many tools out there, and I think many of them are great. Slack, there is Microsoft tools. There are all kinds of tools that allow you to asynchronously connect with each other as well as synchronously connect. Now, what things you want to think about are asynchronous connection is really important when you are not near each other. You need to be able to communicate in a way that is going to allow that information to persist, so that other teammates, other colleagues, other customers can understand that information whenever they need to, so that it's not happening in real time and they miss out. Synchronous communication is also very important, so you want to be really intentional about that. And you want to think about the video tools that you're using, the live chat tools and the voice tools that you're using. And we talked a lot about how to connect successfully via voice and video, and making sure your home network can support all of that. That's really key. You don't want those things failing on you when you're trying to have synchronous communication with your team and with your customers. But you got to think really hard about the asynchronous versus the synchronous, and make sure that the asynchronous is getting as much attention as the synchronous, because that is where teams and organizations who are able to work in a distributed fashion really shine. It's through asynchronous communication. And the last thing I'll say is, working from home doesn't mean that it has to be chaos. You still can create a professional environment and a professional experience for yourself and for others. You need to really appreciate your environment and think about what the influence of that environment is going to be on others, and just try to get ahead of that. So if you've got if you've got things in the background that are going to be distracting to others, that's going to be a problem. You want to try to eliminate those things. Again, find a space that you can control, make it yours, and then set up the expectations for both yourself and your team that you will be in these spaces and working with them in the ways that are most effective for this type of experience.
That's great. We were talking about earlier with asynchronous communication. I labeled that years ago pseudo time. It's not real time. Yeah. It's pseudo time, but it has to feel like real time. We're going to go to some questions that we have. The first question, and questions in the chat should be about what we're talking about. There's a lot of questions about other things, and those things we can address offline. But the very first question is, can you give us some tips for making sure the team feels like they're connected even when no one is, quote, hanging around the water cooler? That comes from Ethan Farlow. Hello, Ethan. Thanks for your question. I'll toss that one to Jason. What are some tips that you've been using, because you've been working so much like that makes you feel like everybody's really together?
Yeah, so one thing I'm doing at my day job is Zoom lunches. So we're doing them on Tuesday and Friday. We have weeks where we've done them more often, but we literally take our laptop into the kitchen, warm up our food, and show each other like what we're eating, even if it's leftover chicken and gravy leftovers like I was eating last week. And it's just fun because it's as if you're in the lunchroom, and it's casual, and we try to keep the work talk to a minimum, and it's really just like catching up on the stuff that you would otherwise talk about in the office, over the water cooler. And then We did a happy hour on Friday afternoon at 3 Eastern. So for us it was lunchtime. So yeah, I would just try to find those water cooler moments and, let everyone know, hey, we're gonna be on Zoom. If you wanna do video, great, it'll make it richer. And then like Darren was saying, pick up the phone, like call people, just call them for no reason. You have no problem poking your head in someone's office or cubicle at the office just to say hi or ask someone about their shoes. Just pick up the phone and call them. And even if it's random, I think we all need to be taking steps, even though maybe, in today's mobile phone culture, you text before you call. Let's violate that for the next 2 months and just call. And if people can answer the phone, great. And if not, they'll get back to you.
The one thing that you're talking about, I did something like that with a friend on the West Coast. We time shifted, but I ate late, so it was 8:30 my time, 5:30 their time. We were having dinner together, and we were catching up while we were, he had dinner, I had dinner, his wife was there. We just did a virtual dinner. You
Yep.
can do the same thing during the day. Darren, what are some virtual water cooler tips you have? Darren? Do we lose Darren? We lost Darren. Maybe his connection dropped. Next question. Are you going to touch on SIP ALG? Jason, do you know anything about SIP ALG?
I've not heard of it yet. So
I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is specifically. So Sean Bipley, we'll connect you with Corey Stoker in our VP of support to get an answer on that. Next question, how about Ethernet over power line adapter if you can't hardwire directly into the modem? Jason?
Good question. I have tried these and I have had bad luck with them. If you are no, I used to work in an old building and I shared internet connection between offices, so we used it. And I think it was because we were all in the same circuit, but if you have to jump circuits, then those get really bad. I have tried to use these in my home, Andy, and I've had very bad luck, especially if you're trying to do something that requires a constant good connection like a voice call. I would not recommend them.
Darren, I think I see you back on. Are you back on, or is your internet flaking out on you? Going once, going twice. Question, does Reach UC desktop equal Reach UC plus? I have not heard the term Reach UC plus. We are working with our development team that question comes from Steve Burke. We are working on it. We will have it out. And as everything goes, the information either is sent out via our email blast or via our Weekender newsletter. If you're not getting the Weekender, chances are it's in your junk mail folder. Those of you who use Outlook, we're finding that with our open rates that people who use Outlook tend to have and don't have the info@skyswitch.com in their address book. For some reason, some of you are getting the Weekender in junk mail, not spam, but junk mail, because we never spam. What are some this one comes from David Boyd. What are some tips for managing upstream bandwidth? This is typical, very low compared to downstream, i.e. 300 megabits down and 5 megabits up. Customers are experiencing choppy calls because upstream is weak. I love this question, David Boyd. You are my hero for asking this question, because I am kind of like those of you who ever watched Seinfeld and the Soup Nazi. I am a bandwidth zealot. My ex-wife used to say if we didn't have good bandwidth in hotels, I wouldn't stay in that hotel, even before hotels had Wi-Fi. So here's the answer. First, you have to determine what type of connectivity the person actually has at their home office. So Jason started out the show talking about fiber versus cable and DSL. The very first thing is fiber connections are great. You want fiber as close to your premise as possible, whether it's fiber to the node, whether it's fiber to the premise, or fiber all the way in. My old house in California, I had fiber everywhere, even though fiber wasn't coming yet. I built the house for fiber. So the second thing is, if you're on a cable modem, recognize that upstream is, as I said earlier, is very important. Really, if you have less than 5 megs upstream continual, you're going to have choppy audio. That's, 10 is better, 20 is better. I have a friend in LA. I was helping her upgrade her solution in West Hollywood. She got a 20 megabit upstream from Charter. You need bigger upstream. The reason why it's so choppy, let's talk about DSL. DSL is distance dependent. So anything, DSL works to 18,500 feet from what's known as a central office. However, between you and the central office, there's a lot of people getting on that highway. Think of the 405 in California, in Los Angeles at rush hour. Everybody's trying to get on the highway and nobody's going anywhere. DSL is like that. So a slow DSL connection, 1.5, 3 megabits, is really dramatically reduced because they multiplex, the phone companies multiplex, what's known as a MUX, all the traffic. So it's jumping in and out. It's like the person trying to get on the highway, somebody else is trying to get off the highway. You start, you stop. It wasn't really designed for voice or real-time synchronous communication. DSL was designed to get a lot of information down and a little bit up because, hey, it's packets. They don't all have to show up at the same time. Voice packets do. So what can you do even if you have the right kind of connection? One of the things you need to do is QoS. So some of the modems and some of the routers will let you manage QoS. You want to see if you can manage QoS of the cable modem or the DSL modem, or behind it, the router itself. The routers that can be managed for QoS will also let you set up a virtual LAN. And if you can set up a VLAN, you can prioritize all of your packets and all of your voice traffic over it. I hope that answers your question, David. If not, shoot me an email, andy.abramson@skyswitch.com, and I will help you. I'll put you in touch with some folks who can give you more information on that. Last question from Mike Farlow. Given that only 20% of emails at best are ever read, do you have any tips for communicating with clients? Sometimes they really need to see our communications. It's a challenge. Mike, we have the same challenge. We as marketers all have that challenge. We see about a 25 to 28% open rate of our weekender every week. We'll send out multiple mailings about the webinars that we put on, and we see about the same open rate. Interesting, our bills that go out through a different system, they always get open, they always get paid. I think it's frequency. In the old days, everyone said, I don't want to be a spammer, I don't want to be a mass mailer. If you've got something to say it 2 or 3 times and hope that the people see it. Right now, the open rates are a challenge. I look at my inbox. It used to be Tuesdays were the worst day of the week because I would get too many emails. I'm seeing it every single day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Everyone's giving me their COVID-19. They're doing this update. They're doing that update. It's overwhelming. Think about other forms of communication. 1, can you mail them a postcard? 2, can you schedule a call like this with your customers just to shoot the breeze, to introduce some new things, to do a virtual support group, so to speak? Create some other programs that get away from email that allow you to communicate. Another suggestion, develop a mobile app for your company where you can communicate to your customers because they can get in-app notifications right on their mobile phone or tablet. Set up a Slack group. A Slack group would be of your customers, and people don't have to be a part of it. Darren set up Worfrom, and you don't have to live and work from 24/7. You can tune in and tune out. So set up a Slack group for your customers, invite them in, and make them part of your world. That's another way of getting around it. Having regular video calls, regular video chat drop-ins or web conferences. Those are some ways of getting around the scourge of the open rate issue. With that, I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to thank Emily Vasquez for her great job, not only at producing it, but delivering such a great talk about our work from home store. Darren Buckner from Worfrom, you're a godsend and a big resource. If people want to learn more, they can go to worfrom.com and see everything. And of course, our own Jason Harris, who is our expert product reviewer, who is a fountain of information On behalf of everybody from SkySwitch, Eric Hernais, Jason Jones, Corey Stoker, Blake McKelvey, and myself, Andy Abramson, thank you so much.